Alright guys, the Unbreakable Smith is finally in endgame. I took a couple days off, I had other stuff to do, came back, played my warrior a bit more, and yeah, he is set up very nicely. His clear is excellent, it's extremely safe. It was very budget to set up. You don't need 50 divines to set this up. I only spent like a couple of divines on this thing, so it's not expensive at all. And as you can see, it clears very fast while also being extremely safe. It has very good single target damage as well, so you'll have no problem doing single target damage. You have a couple great options for setup on single target, and you can also run this build as a tank version as well. If you wanted to run it as a tank version, you can run with the shield and you'll be extremely tanky and you can clear a little bit slower, but you basically never have to worry about damage. You have all the utility you need. You have access to hammer, perfect strike. You can use earth shatter if you want to. Earth shatter is better if you're running the shield version of the build as opposed to the dual wield version of the build, but with earth shatter you can pop those enemies. You can also use hammer. But yeah, hammer is extremely satisfying to use on this build. Your hammer uptime is very high because you stun enemies often, and you're able to do stuff like this, which is just very satisfying and fun. And of course you still get really good full screen pops. So the full screen pops are excellent. This build is extremely tanky when you play the tank version of it. Here I am just playing the tank version of it, and I stood in the ground pop. This is a max level Trials of Chaos, and as you can see, even standing in ground pops, I take no damage. I stood in a ground pop just for you guys so that you'd be able to enjoy it for this video. You're welcome. But yeah, I just recorded a couple of clips this morning so that you could kind of see how it works. Earthquake is probably one of the most underrated skills in the game, and when you do all this garbage shit like Trials of Chaos, Earthquake is so good. The stuff where you're like waiting for countdowns, Earthquake is amazing. But I'll give you a breakdown and show you how it all works. But you basically can turn everything into trivial nonsense with this setup, and it's pretty cheap to set up. So. Okay guys, so this is the Unbreakable Smith. He's very strong. He's working out really well. I'll give you a quick breakdown to show you how this thing all works. I got some extra stuff for this guy, so if you want it, just let me know. I'll make some suggestions as far as things you could do to change it and what's important about scaling. First thing I'll do is I'll just take you through equipment. So the mauls, really important. This was actually really cheap. I picked this up for like 10x, and this is a freaking amazing weapon. The affixes you want on your mauls, it's not so much the fizz damage rolls, those aren't that important. What you really want is this increased elemental damage with attacks. So I'll come back to that later, but it's really important. You also want attack speed, because attack speed feels really good when you're moving around. And you're just popping, you know, like it just feels really good to have attack speed. If you don't have attack speed, it's gonna feel really bad. So try and get attack speed on every weapon that you can. If you can't, there's some ruins, and there is some jewels and soul cores, I guess you could say, and ruins that will sock it in, and they'll give you some attack speed here. Like here's one that I found, the 5% increased attack speed, and I slapped it in a tidebreaker. But you really want to try and get your attack speed as high as possible. So weapons that come with attack speed are really good, and all melee skills is super important. So I'm not even running like crazy hammers. Like ideally you'd want like +7 hammers. Like a perfect roll on this would be like a high fizz / elemental roll for damage, increased elemental damage with attacks, increased attack speed, and then like a +7 to all melee skills. That would be like a perfect roll. That'd be like a mirror tier item. It'd be amazing. But that's kind of what you want on your weapon. But even like this, even this one, this is a very good weapon. Like this should be worth divines, but I bought it for nothing. I have secondary hammers too, and as you can see, they're kind of all set up the same way. This one doesn't have attack speed, which is, I'm not a huge fan of that. This one does. This one does have attack speed as well, so that's pretty good. I like that quite a bit. And then again, same thing. Notice elemental damage, attack speed, all melee skills. And then I even had a soul core for attack speed, so I threw that in there too. The other soul cores you want to use are the elemental damage with attacks, because that's how you scale your damage. So you use these soul cores to scale your damage. So if you have enough attack speed, you use these. If you don't have enough attack speed, use ones with attack speed. Attack speed are nice. Ideally, the ruins with attack speed I think give you 8%, so those are probably the best. I haven't bothered to buy any of those. I'm kind of stingy. It's not like I can't afford them. Like, I got a bunch of divines just sitting here, just really stingy. I don't feel like buying stuff. Sometimes I don't want to. And then rings, you just want fire. This was just what I could get. Like, I checked the market, I couldn't find anything better than this. Obviously you want fire resistance or all resistance, max life, strength, fire damage, and then life on kill is really nice quality of life if you can get it. Life on kill is really, really nice. Like, even on the hammers I try to get it too. Life on kill, life on kill. Like, when you pop a screen, you can get like 4,000 health regeneration immediately from popping a screen with those life on kill hammers, right? Plus your ring, plus you have cannibalism, right, slotted into your Herald of Ash, right? Vitality and cannibalism. So, oh, I should have fire mastery in here too. I just kind of forgot. Don't really get too bogged down in the details. And this helmet was just what I bought. You could get a way better one. It was just cheap. It was what was on the market. It had lots of strength and lots of life, so I bought it. And then Zoph's Blood Amulet, obviously. I stuck Titanic on it. I'll go over the anoints at the end of the video. There's a bunch of things you could anoint on your amulet that are really, really good. This one's kind of meh, but I needed the strength. I really, really needed the strength, and getting some stun threshold's nice. Other ring is the same thing, just strength, max life, fire damage, all res, fire res. Like, it's just a good ring. I think I picked that up for like 5 exalts or something. And then I'm running this Inferno clasp belt. Now I switch that off if I run to the tank version, and then boots are just movement speed, max life, fire res, stun threshold. Gloves are somewhat important. Like, this set of gloves, I got fire damage plus flat damage on lightning. And now flat damage from lightning and cold is fine also if you get it on your rings or your gloves, because all that damage just gets converted to fire damage anyways. So I'll go over that later. And then these ones just came with attack speed and chaos res. Like, I could get better gloves, but these are just really nice gloves. They give me attack speed, they give me chaos resistance, just kind of nice. I haven't really bothered to max out my chaos res. Also haven't bothered to buy like a nice Inferno clasp. Like, I should have bought a +5 to max fire res, because then all my reses would be capped at 90, right? But I didn't bother to buy a +5 one. I should just go buy one, but I just haven't felt like it. And then the armor is just one of these base ornate plates, and we're just using the ascendancy to slap a bunch of mods on it, right? So these are just the mods that I wanted. Max life, strength, and maximum fire res, and then regenerates life. This one's actually really nice. And as you can see, I got 362 life regeneration per second, so pretty tanky, and I heal really fast. So that's really nice. And of course, no mana because of blood magic, so I never have to worry about mana. So mana is basically just a problem that's totally been solved. You never have to worry about mana. You can just run around and do whatever you want. Okay, and then what I do too when I switch to the tank version of this is I just swap my belt and I throw this shield on. So this is how I run the tank version of this. And as you can see with the tank version of this, I got 4100. I'm all res capped. I could get more chaos res if I wanted. Like, I could put 2 chaos res cores in here. I could put chaos res in my armor if I really wanted to. Helmet. Like, I don't need the extra fire res, so I can put chaos res in there. Same thing with the gloves. I just haven't bothered to. Just haven't had the time really, or the energy. But for the mapping setup, I've mostly just been using this. I've just been running Inferno clasp, and I've also been using this Tidebreaker pointed maul. This maul is really good. I've been using it forever. I'm still using it as an offhand weapon for when I'm running maps, because the 171% increased stun buildup is really, really nice. Because what happens when you do that is you can slap down an earthquake, right? And basically everything in that earthquake gets primed for stun, because you get so much stun bonus coming from this Tidebreaker, which is like crazy. Like, you get a lot of stun buildup. So basically you can stun and then hit your overpower immediately. And then the earthquake also has this added benefit. This skill's like super underrated. It slows everything down. So when you throw that down, everything's slowed down and you're safe. Like, things can't really get to you because there's a massive thing slowing them down. All that jagged ground slows enemies down to like half speed, so they're barely moving. And I mean, you can always just throw this down and just run by enemies you don't want to fight. You just want to ignore them. You can just kind of drop your earthquake. But yeah, this maul works really good for that because you get the extra stun build up. So that's really, really nice for that. This is a really good weapon for cheap because you get it when you're level 45 and you can just run it for the whole game. It has low strength requirements, so you could run 2 of these with Giant's Blood if you really wanted to. And you could probably clear T15s with just 2 of these with Giant's Blood on. Like this maul's really, really strong. It's really strong for cheap, which is crazy. But yeah, tank version of this, you just swap that in. And the reason I switched my belt is because I don't need the fire res anymore from Inferno clasp, right? Because this shield is like insanely broken. This shield's really, really good. So I just have a second belt with max life, strength, fire res, and then regeneration. So with that setup, you know, like you get a ton of regeneration. It says 414, but that's not right. It's not showing it accurately, right? See, with the shield off, it's still not calculating it. So see if it calculates it now. No, it's still not calculating it. But this shield gives you like another 200 life regeneration per second. Plus it does another 3% of maximum life per second while on low life. So that's another 200. So when you go to low life and you're wearing the shield, your regeneration, like my regen, for example, would jump from 400 to 800 if I go to low life. So, and low life, here, I'll pull it up so you can see it, 35% or less of maximum life. So when I drop down to 1500 life, this thing kicks my regeneration up to 800 regeneration per second. So my health just comes back immediately. So this is a really super strong shield. It's really underrated. And I just socketed 2 maximum life ruins into it. Maximum life ruins are actually better. I know it says 4% increased maximum life from the soul cores on my armor. Those actually aren't ideal. Like those should be just 40 to maximum life, and those are cheap. Like you can go over to the currency exchange, right, and just find those. Let's see, where are they? Ruins. Greater body ruin, I think is what they are. Yeah, greater body ruin, and they're like nothing. They're like dirt cheap. Like how many? They're like 16 to 1 divine orb, 1 to 1 chaos orb. Yeah, so like they're not very expensive, and you can find them too. They're pretty common. But the reason I stuck the soul cores in with the maximum life is that's because just what I had laying around, so I just slapped them in there. But yeah, with this setup, you're all res capped. You have about 600 life regeneration. It's not calculating the shield for some reason. It's probably just a bug in the game. But you'll add 200 more life recovery per second with this shield. So it's actually really disgusting. So that's if you want to run the tank version. And this is exactly basically how you would run it. If you're running the single target version of the build, you just weapon swap. So your single target's just on your weapon swap with your other hammers, right? And if you don't need 3 hammers to run your single target, like you could just have 2 hammers, right? And then you could just swap your hammers into your offhand. So then you only need 2, and then you could switch your other one back when you're done. So like you could just do that, right? I just have an extra hammer because I'm lazy and I just don't feel like switching my weapons all the time. So I just like to have 4 because then I can swap on the fly and then kill bosses fast that way. But yeah, so that's how you run the tank version, is you just get one of these cheap shields. And I've got an extra one of these, so if someone wants one, just ask me. I'll give you this stuff. Like I don't need it. And then I got an extra one of these armors too. I got a 3-socket one, so I have an extra one that's 2 sockets, and I'm just going to give that away. So if you want it, it's either going to get vendored or someone can take it and have it for free. So if you want it, just let me know. And then I also got another one of these soul cores, so if you want one of these soul cores, just let me know. I don't need one of those, so just throw a comment down below if you want any of this stuff. You can just have it, right? I'm not going to need all that extra stuff anyway. When I get close to being done with this build, I'll give it all away too. Probably once I'm really like deep in endgame and I've maybe I played a little more or just get bored of it. Once I'm bored of it, I'll probably get rid of it. And then I noticed I wasn't having a big problem with stuns running the setup, so now for charms I'm running a slow charm. So that's a slow charm right there. It just works on slows. Slows are really annoying, so I was running a stun charm before, but I got rid of it to run the slow charm instead. As far as skills go, I'm just using leap slam with aftershock. That's not really important. You could take aftershock out and swap it for whatever. Like martial tempo might be better in leap slam if you want to like leap slam around faster, because then you can leap slam around a little quicker. But I don't know, it's like up to you, right? I was using martial tempo on hammer because hammer likes to come out slow when you're dual wielding. So I put it on the hammer just to speed up the dual wield. So that was just kind of a nice quality of life thing. Two hammers is actually really nice too. I think it's like, I don't think people really understand how any of that works. For skills, I'll take you through the rest of them here. So leap slam, you could use whatever. I was just using aftershock in there, and then momentum is really good, of course, because momentum is this little green effect. You see that little green effect? So as soon as that green effect pops, that means you're getting 40% extra damage. That damage doesn't show up on your tooltips, right? So that's why you have to be like, you know, wary of your tooltips, so to speak, right? Because you just don't know if they're doing the right things. And then brink is just, if you jump in and you want to do an overpower, obviously you use brink, and then you can pop them because it doesn't totally stun them, right? They don't build up 100% stun, but they get you right to being primed, and then you can overpower if you want. And then cadence just makes you do this a lot faster, because the more you use your leap slam, the faster it uses leap slam. So you can leap slam around really fast, especially if you have like a high attack speed weapon, right? Like the faster your attack speed weapon is, you can get really fast, especially if you put like martial tempo in there. But I guess it just depends on how much you use leap slam. Leap slam will actually clear trash mobs totally fine. So if you just want to clear trash, like you can clear trash on T15s with leap slam, and it works really good. Then as you can see, most of what I'm running is like 3 links. And then bone shatter with impact shockwave, ancestral call, and magnified effect. So you get really nice pops with all of that. So that just gives you really nice bone shatter pops when enemies are primed. Earthquake is reach, overpower, and defy. So this is pretty much every time you use this, you're going to be using it when you're surrounded. So this is just nice. The defy, and then the overpower obviously just causes more stun buildup. So when you slap it down, especially when you're running a tidebreaker, when you slap this down, that basically primes the entire screen for stun, right? So boom, slap it down, everything on the screen is stun, and then boom, when you hit him, the whole screen gets popped, right? So that's how you can pop the whole screen really easy. And then for bossing setup, this is just a bossing setup. So you got 2 options for bossing setup. You can run Solar Orb, and you can see with Solar Orb, your Font of Rage goes up, right? So if you're running your bossing setup, you cast your Solar Orb, you go up to the boss, you get some Rage. And Solar Orb is Font of Rage, Strip Away, and Fire Exposure. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, enemies in your presence already have fire exposure because of your Zoph's blood, so you don't really need that. I mean, yeah, yes and no, because you're using Strip Away on this, and Strip Away gives you more fire exposure. So this is actually important, right? Because we're only doing fire damage. This is running an Avatar of Fire build, right? So we're only doing fire damage. So anytime you can get more exposure is good. So Font of Rage, Strip Away, and Fire Exposure, this just makes your exposure a little stronger. So instead of getting 20% exposure, you're getting 25, right? So I'll go into that a bit later with penetration, because how fire damage scales, this all matters. And then Infernal Cry with Premeditation, Ingenuity, and Raging Cry. There might be something better you can put in there. This is just whatever I ran last season, so I just kept running it. And then Overwhelming Presence. If you wanted to be more tanky, you could also run Time of Need. Time of Need is good if you want to be more tanky instead of Overwhelming Presence. Overwhelming Presence just gives you more stun buildup, so you can pop your hammers more often. And hammers are really satisfying to use, so... yeah, it's kind of interchangeable. You could use Time of Need. You could also use Berserk if you want more damage. Berserk is really good. So Berserk is another option for spirit skills, right? And I'm just using the same thing on both at weapon sets 1 and 2. Just Overwhelming Presence and Herald of Ash, right? And the Herald of Ash, I'm just using Vitality and Cannibalism. I should have Fire Mastery in here, but I just kind of forgot. Didn't do it, so... yeah, you just kind of ignore that. That's just me being lazy. And then Perfect Strike, Window of Opportunity, Concentrate Effect, Primal Armament, and Fire Infusion. Now, this is interchangeable if you want Martial Tempo, because your Perfect Strike feels better with Martial Tempo because it just comes out faster. So, I don't know. I kind of like Perfect Strike with Martial Tempo. But I also, when I'm mapping, I'm not using Perfect Strike as much as I'm using Hammer. So... I'll switch in Primal Armament and then run Martial Tempo on my Hammer. You could also switch in, like if you wanted to run Pure Hammer on like maps, this is a really nice setup. Basically it's just swapping these around. Just depends on where you want your damage, right? Like if I had a 6 link on here, I would use martial tempo, and then primal armament, conk effect. I would use all of those, and I would just add martial tempo to it for bosses. The boss setup is really simple. You just pop your solar orb, get ready, and then boom. Now you have two options for boss setup. You can also run the Earth Shatter setup, which is better if you're running the tank version. So if you're running the Earth Shatter setup, this is how you would run your Earth Shatter setup for bosses, right? So you would just run it like this. Now the problem when you run Earth Shatter for setup on bosses is it's really slow. It still works, but your setup is slower. So you can't use this in maps for like enemies because this just doesn't work, right? So I mean, it's still fine, but basically what this does is the reason you run Font of Rage on here is Font of Rage is going to give you rage, obviously. See, I'm standing here and I'm getting rage. Rage increases your damage. So you want Font of Rage on there to increase your damage. Upheaval gives you more spikes, and then Ignition gives you more chance to ignite. And I'll talk about that later too, because it's really important. There's some nodes on the tree that give you more damage against burning enemies, right? So that's important. So that's why you get the Ignition on there. Now the reason you don't run that same setup with Solar Orb is because Solar Orb automatically ignites. So you don't actually have to worry about igniting enemies. And ignites are harder to pull off this patch. Last patch you could get 30-50 million damage with ignites. You can't get that damage anymore with ignites because they really messed with ignite, so it's not as good as it used to be. But yeah, this is the bossing setup. You can either run this. Now this setup is way better if you're running the shield version, like you're running more tanky, because like look at how fast your Earth Shatters come out. And you can use these on rares too. Like if you come up to a rare monster, you can just drop a couple Earth Shatters and just pop them, and it'll basically one-shot them every time. So if you're running the tank version, you probably want to run Earth Shatter as your setup, right? But if you're running the non-tank version, I would say probably want to run Solar Orb as your boss setup, right? So I would probably run that and then just add the Strip Away, obviously, in the Font of Rage. And then when you're going to kill your boss, you just drop that down, right? You throw down your Solar Orb, get some rage, and then you boom, pop the boss, right? So that's just your setup. Now that also gives the fire exposure effect too, right? So that's gonna expose the boss to more fire damage. Boom, pop the boss, right? So really straightforward there. Earthquake is really good for setting up your perfect strike and your hammers as well, because when you throw down your Earthquake, enemies are slowed, then you can set up your perfect strike, right? So if there's a rare enemy, you throw down your Earthquake, set up your perfect strike, boom. Because enemies will often move or run away from you, or you'll get swarmed. So you set up your Earthquake, boom, perfect strike, right? Or you set up your Earthquake, boom, Hammer of the Gods, right? So that's your setup skill. Earthquake is your setup and crowd control skill. So really, really good skill, super underrated. But yeah, that's basically how it's all set up. I have Expanse on Hammer of the Gods because it covers the whole screen. Martial Tempo is just for mapping. Fist of War, and then Raged Forge. Raged Forge doesn't really matter. You could take that off if you want. Like if you wanted more damage, you could swap in like a Fire Infusion or like a Primal Armament or, you know, whatever, right? So that doesn't really matter. If you want your Perfect Strike to go off faster, you just swap in Martial Tempo and your Perfect Strike will go off faster, right? So if that feels better to you, you can kind of switch those around and set them up however you want. It's entirely up to you how you want to set it up, but I like Martial Tempo in it personally. I think it feels good, so that's why I'm running Martial Tempo in maps. For bosses, I'm usually switching out something like this, right? If you find the bosses get a little bit further away from you, or you're fighting a boss that moves around a lot, you could switch Conk Effect off your Perfect Strike as well, and then that's going to make your Perfect Strike a little bigger, so you just get more range with your Perfect Strike, right? Because when you switch Conk Effect on it, it just shrinks that range. So that's basically how that works, right? So it just shrinks it down. So yeah, you just have to, whatever feels better for you, you can play around with it. But this is what I've been running, and it's fine. It works totally fine. As far as passive tree goes, I set up on the Smith, grabbed all the tank stuff, obviously. I was messing around with Fire Spell and Hit. Fire Spell and Hit was really good for leveling. I was using it with Corpse Explosion, and it's really good. You can go back and see that in my other video if you want. These skills were really trash, but apparently they're getting buffed, so I don't know. I guess we'll see what happens there. And then I was just using Smith's Masterwork with Regen, Max Fire, and Strength, and Max Life. If you had like some really good A tier armor and you're in endgame and you didn't need to run this, you could run like a regular armor, but that's pretty good setup right there. For pathing, I started here on the melee damage, pop down here. This is my first weapon split, so you can see that this is weapon set 2. So the reason this is important is it says damage penetrates 10 fire resistance. So fire pen is important, and then exposure is different than fire penetration, so I'll explain that later, but you need both. And then I split off down here. I grabbed all this, and I grabbed this on weapon set 1. So all the area of effect stuff is just on weapon set 1. The other stuff is just on both weapon sets here, and then the green stuff is on weapon set 2. So weapon set 2 is your boss damage, right? So this is what you're running for your boss damage. I came down here, I grabbed all this skill speed, right? Came down here, I grabbed this, hits against burning enemies. So this is important. When you're doing your setup, that's how you light your enemy on fire, right? So this increases your damage with hits against burning enemies. So this stuff isn't on your tooltips, so make sure, don't trust your tooltips. Trusting tooltips is for noobs. Never trust your tooltips in this game. Yeah, so you set that up. I like to throw down Earthquake on bosses and then get them burning. So they're burning as soon as they're standing in the Solar Orb. The Solar Orb burns them as soon as you put it down, right? Same thing with the Earth Shatter. With the Ignition, that's going to burn them, right? So when you're setting up your bosses, that's why those are nice. And then grab Burning Strikes. This node doesn't seem like it should work, but it actually works, and it gives you a lot of damage, so this is a really good node. Then come down here. I just grabbed a little bit of Dexterity because I needed it to run my support gems. Down here, grabbed all this two-handed weapon stuff. Again, there's an important split here. Weapon set 1 is on this right-hand side because you're getting area of effect. So you get way more area of effect once you've stunned an enemy, because there's a couple nodes on this tree, and that's why you see big full screen pops. So these are on weapon set 1, so they're not on weapon set 2, because you only need these for mapping, right? You don't need those for bosses. And then you come down here. Now stuns are a big problem this patch, so you have to get this. You have to get this node. So 50% of armor on equipped items. So if I had more armor on my items, I would basically never get stunned. I have kind of crappy items. There's not really a lot of armor on them. They're just whatever was cheap. That's why I bought them. But this node, really, really important this patch. You can't play without it. I also checked out this node down here, but this node up here is so much better. You basically have to run this node if you're playing Warrior. You're pretty much shoehorned into it. Anyways, then I went up here. Now again, this is another split. So this is for empowered attacks, right? So when you do your empowered attack, then you can hit your perfect strike, boom, jacks up your perfect strike. So this is on weapon set 2. This is for bosses, right? That's your boss setup, right? And then I grabbed this on both weapon sets. And the reason I grabbed that on both weapon sets is because I have this Time Lost Diamond. If you didn't have this Time Lost Diamond, I got really lucky. I bought this for cheap. Some guy gave it away. I don't know what he was thinking. This is definitely a good diamond. If you have a diamond like this in this spot, you could pick up these nodes. If I had 4 more levels, like if I get to level 91, I would grab these 4 nodes too, and then I would get 2% more fire damage from this diamond. This diamond's really good. This is a really good diamond. But yeah, then I came down here and grabbed all this strength, come up here, grab Blade Catcher, and then it also gives you strength, so that's a good node. Put this Time Lost Diamond in here. I couldn't find a better location for Time Lost Diamonds for Warrior this patch. If you see my other Warrior videos, you'll know that it's there used to be better spots than this, but this is probably the best one right now. Then grabbed Unbending and grabbed Resolute Technique. Now I also did a split here that's important to get this area of effect stuff. This is all area of effect damage, area attack damage, area of effect if you stun an enemy recently again, so that's a more area of effect. So like this is how much area of effect I'm getting without all that bonus, and I'm already able to cover the whole screen, right? So if I stun an enemy, I get 45% more from these 2 nodes. So that's a really good setup right there. I came down here, again, another split, weapon set 2. Again, this is boss damage. So you switch into your boss damage, you drop all your area of effect, and you just run pure damage. Down here, empowered attacks. So this empowered attacks is important. The reason it is because for your perfect strikes, You War Cry, then you can Perfect Strike, it's empowered, then you can Perfect Strike again, and it's empowered again. Or you can War Cry, Hammer, Perfect Strike, right? You can't show Hammer, obviously, because Hammer, you need to stun enemies to get the stupid honor mechanic. And then I came down here, I looped up. This is weapon set 2. If I had another point, I would have put one here too for just more damage. I grabbed Avatar of Fire. Avatar of Fire is really important. 75% of damage converted to fire damage, deal no non-fire damage. So that converts all your damage. That includes cold damage, lightning damage. All your damage gets converted, right? So if you got rolls on your weapons for cold, that cold is getting converted to fire. So everything's getting converted to fire with this. And then when you're doing fire damage, you have a couple of things you have to overcome. So maybe I should just point that out now so you understand it. Okay, so with elemental damage, you get multipliers, obviously. Because you're doing all elemental damage, that's why these elemental damage with attacks on your weapons are so important. So that's why you need these elemental damage with attacks, because that's where your multiplier comes from for your damage, right? So even a damage with absolutely no plus damage rolls, but a really high roll of elemental attack damage is going to be better than one that just has really high fizz. So that's something that's important to note. And then the next thing you have to note is fire penetration. So enemies have resistances just like you do. Like you have fire resistance, enemies also have fire resistance, right? So like for example, like a Zhesht has 75% fire resistance. So if you go to fight a Zhesht, that's the breach boss, if you don't know what that is, you're going to need fire pen to get through his fire defenses. So how this works is 10% of the fire resistance gets knocked off here. You're also reducing some on a couple of these other nodes and some jewels. I think there's a couple of jewels I have some fire penetration on. So I have 10% fire penetration here. I have 50% here or 15% there. Like you want to get around 50% penetration if you can for fire resistance, like if you can help it. I have another jewel up here that also gives some fire pen, so I have 10% there. A tier 4 Zhesht I think has 75% fire resistance. So then the next thing is exposure. So exposure works after fire pen. So if you had 100% fire pen, the enemy's resistance would be 0, right? Exposure takes them to negative resistances. So if you have, say an enemy had 88 fire pen, then I would have 0 resistance. But if they had 20% exposure applied on top of that, then I would have negative fire resistance, and that's multiplicative, right? So that would add 20% more damage on top of that. So fire exposure is applied after, it sends you into negative resistances, right? So instead of just penetration, you also push to negative res. But then I came up here, I grabbed this primal growth. So this is weapon set 1, so that's all area of effect. And then, of course, in your face, this is weapon set 2 for single target damage. So you just swap, and then you switch to your green, you switch to your red, right? So that's how that's set up. And then I grabbed the blood magic, and I grabbed the prism guard up here on the top side. So that's and then I anointed Titanic here. So and then I came down, I grabbed brute strength and all this strength stuff because I needed it. I grabbed giant's blood, obviously, to run big hammers. This jewel here, just some life regen, gain 1 rage on melee hit. You want to try and get a jewel that has gain rage on melee hit. It's really nice. That's a really good quality of life. So make sure you try and get at least 1 jewel with gain 1 rage on melee hit. Came down here, grabbed this 2 nodes here, and again, this is weapon set 2. So this is a weapon swap, single target damage, right? Increased damage with hits against burning enemies. So that's important. This is all weapon set 1 right here. It's all this area of effect stuff. So that just gives you bigger pops. Weapon set 2, you don't have any of that, so you just get little pops, right? Came down here and grabbed polymathy because you need as much strength as possible to wear hammers. And then came up here, attack speed, attack speed, attack speed. So attack speed is really important. Now attack speed is different than skill speed. Skill speed works on all skills. Attack speed just works on attacks. So skill speed also works on war cries. So these are nice because of that, because your war cries come out a little faster, right? So that's what's nice about that. But that is pretty much how it's all set up as far as the skill tree is built. Everything's kind of there. As far as anoints go, I anointed Titanic because I needed strength. You also get some stun threshold, which is nice, and some stun buildup, so this is a good node. There's a lot of other things you could grab megalomaniac wise and anoints. Like this is a good one right here, burning nature. If you were to find a Megalomaniac with that, let's see, this is also not a bad one. Explosive Impact. The best anoint in the game for this character is probably this one right here, Volcanic Skin. Suffering Isolation Paranoia. Like, isolation is pretty expensive, but you get 8% fire damage plus 20% fire resistance. So this is the best anoint in the game for this character probably, but you so desperately need strength that it's really hard to run it. I think there's another couple fire res, or oh yeah, here's a node right down here, right by the monk. Increased elemental damage if you ignited an enemy recently. Because you're doing all fire damage, you ignite enemies a lot, so that's 30% more damage you could get right there. I think there's a fire node over here. Yeah, there's a fire node right here. This wouldn't be bad. 15% fire resistance plus fire pen. So if you could find a Megalomaniac diamond with that, that would be very good. I don't think there's much other than that that would be especially good on this character. Except maybe some more attack speed. If you wanted more attack speed, you could maybe anoint something goofy like blurred motion just for attack speed, or something like that, right? But attack speed, just like, it's so nice. It's so hard to play without attack speed. You could also probably like maybe get this on like a Megalomaniac. That'd be fine. If Megalomaniacs are kind of beggars can't be choosers, right? There's not really too much other than that as far as anoints go that would be good on this character, other than just like attack speed and fire damage. I think that'd be pretty much it. But yeah, that's pretty much how it's all set up. You can be extremely tanky if you want to be a tank. You can be really aggressive if you want to play some other way. Again, if you want this stuff, just let me know. I have all this stuff. I'm probably not going to need it. So just send me a message if you want this. Throw a comment down below. I'll give it to you. So it's just extra stuff. But if this helped you, like the video to boost it in the algorithm so it makes it easier for people to find. There's lots of crappy builds on YouTube. There's lots of people giving you bad information on YouTube. They don't set up their characters very well. So if you share this, like it, do whatever you need to do, interact with the video, just boost it in the algorithm so other people can find it. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you when I'm done with the next one. And when I'm done with this character, I'll probably post another video and give away the rest of the stuff for this guy. I'll probably just strip him down and give it all away. So cheers.